Hey everyone, this is Tom. I'm once here again with Bobby. We are the Noise Brigade, and we are coming from you, just moments after E3 has ended, right, Bobby?
Yeah. It's been a very interesting week. I'm very excited about a lot of the stuff we learned this week. It's been some outstanding news coming out.
So we wanted to, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We were going to dedicate an episode strictly to E3. We do have a couple of other video game notes on top because we're such uber nerds. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, man. I'm pretty sure that all that well, you have hair. All I don't have hair anymore. All we're missing is really just the really thick lensed glasses, and then we would be the prototypes.
Well, I've had those. Well, I wear contacts, but I do have the thick glasses, and I've had those for a long time. So we're there.
I mean, I have glasses. Mine aren't as thick, but still, yeah, we're
But
pretty much there.
yeah, we're there. So you texted me earlier tonight, and this was super cool, and this is really fitting with E3. Not that this was necessarily announced at E3, but you've talked about this before here. I think maybe have we talked about this? I get confused sometimes because we talk about things so much. Sometimes I just assume they're part of the podcast. Limited run games.
Yes,
What do you have for us here? Let's talk about this.
so I have talked about Limited Run before. They're one of my favorite companies, and why I like them is, as I discussed, I have a predilection for the physical copies of games, and so there's companies like Limited Run and Forever. What is the other one? Um, I can't remember the other one, but Limited Run makes physical copies of games. And what they do is they take games that maybe are Strictly Limited is the other one. But Limited Run and Strictly Limited take games that may be released digitally or older games that will release on other systems, and they make hard copies that you can, hold in your hand, physical copies of the games. So Limited Run announced 25 games coming to the Switch this year, and pretty much every single one of their games that comes out for the Switch ends up coming out on PS5 or PS4. Some of these are going to be coming out on PS5, but there were a couple I wanted to highlight. One of which is the Contra Anniversary Edition. So that's been on digital on all of the systems for a while now, but you get a ton of your Contra games. So Contra, Super C, all the cool old Contra games are coming on physical for Switch and PS4.
Nice.
We're getting Double Dragon and Kunio-kun Retro Brawlers bundle, which if you don't know what Kunio-kun is, you'll know it by its other name, which is River City Ransom.
Ah ha ha! Here we go. Yes.
So River City Ransom, all the Double Dragon games, they're all coming in a physical package from Limited Run. We've also got. I'm going to skip this one because it ties into what I really want to talk about. This one's not so much I wouldn't call it a classic so much as like an infamous title, but back in the early days of our CD based games, they did a lot of full motion video games, and one of them was Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Do you remember that game?
No, I don't. That just a funny name made me laugh.
So it was a somewhat soft core porn kind of title, um, which was apt for the CD game. The full motion video games, a lot of them were like that. It was really weird. But that's actually getting a physical release for Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. Um, and then one that we've talked about recently, Retromania Wrestling, is getting its own physical edition for PS4 and Switch.
That's cool. Yeah, and I remember them. And I don't mean to interrupt you and stop you there, but I remember whenever Retromania was announced, wasn't that part of the package? Or at least when they announced it, wasn't that like one of the things that they were like really adamant about? Like, hey, we're gonna have a physical copy of this game.
So I don't remember that. What I do remember is, and what tricked me, and I almost bought it until I realized what it was. They did release a physical case.
Ah, that's right.
8
Okay.
had a little booklet in it, but there was no game inside. It was just the download code.
Got it.
So I was kind of bummed out about that. But now that this is coming out, the really cool thing, what Limited Run does, and this will tie into the big one that I want to talk about, or the big two that I want to talk about. They do their normal edition where you get the game and you get and it's the physical copy and it's cool and it has awesome packaging. The second thing they do on most of their games is they release limited edition versions. And the limited edition versions, typically there's 3 tiers. There's your normal edition, what you would get with just the cartridge or the disc. Then there's the middle of the road, like collector's edition. And that'll have maybe a special case, it might have a steel book, it might have, some extra little things. And then they do an over-the-top version. And that it's normally around $100, and it's got all kinds of crazy stuff. Like it'll have, like the Scott Pilgrim one has like a record case that pops up, and it's a diorama with like that plays music and has flashing lights and stuff, and it's all synced up. And it comes with a ton of other stuff. There's a ton of it. And so for the one that I want to talk about that I was really excited about, it's called, and hopefully people will remember this game, and it's not just us. It's a collector's edition with Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol.
Yes, yes. You texted me that earlier, and I was so excited to hear Zombies Ate My Neighbors because that was one of my I can't say favorite games, but I remember a lot. Like I reminisced a lot about that, playing as a kid.
Right.
So go ahead. Speak to what's, maybe a little bit about what that game is, and then what's in that limited edition package.
So I never got to play Ghoul Patrol because it was an SNES exclusive, and it was pretty hard to find, if I remember correctly. But Zombies Ate My Neighbors, you're either you're a dude or you're a chick. You can pick, and you're walking around your neighborhood trying to save people from zombies. And there's all different kinds of cool weapons. There's zombies bouncing on trampolines and stuff, and there's trampolines. There's different. It's like maze-like levels you've got to get through, and it's just really cool. It's definitely a product of its time, and it was awesome, and I loved it. This is so much cooler because here's what you get. So first of all, not only are they doing this, they're also re-releasing cartridges. So you have the option to buy a Genesis cartridge of Zombies Ate My Neighbors, or you can buy a Super NES cartridge of Zombies Ate My Neighbors or Ghoul Patrol. So they stayed true to which games were on which systems. Now, here's where it gets really cool. For your PS4 or your Switch, you can buy a 2-pack of Ghoul Patrol and Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And then there's the limited edition versions. And if we go up to the top one, the $99.99 one, so it's $100, you get this awesome huge case. You get a retro box, you get a steel book, you get posters, you get a soundtrack, you get 18 monster cards, you get the 3D glasses that that Zeke wore, the dude from the game. You get 3D art gallery manual, and you get a working water gun designed after the one in the game. And of course, you obviously get the game, or games rather.
Right.
So it's such a cool package, man, and they do such good work. I've got quite a few limited run games. I haven't gotten any of the major collector's edition releases, but this one's really, really making me think that I might have to check it out.
It looks really cool. I'm not sure if I'll be able to jump in on it, but if anyone of our millions of listeners, if you're listening and you're a big Zombies Ate My Neighbors or Ghoul Patrol fan, just go check it out because it was super cool. Just kind of looking at it, and like I said, it made me reminisce.
Oh, absolutely,
quite a bit. So
and I can say,
cool release.
If nothing else, I'm probably going to pick up just the standard version because it's $35 for $35 for those 2 games. You're not getting. I don't think you can get one of those cartridges for $35. So to get both of them for my Switch for $35, yeah, man, I'm in.
Yeah, that's super cool. Definitely exciting, especially on the kind of the heels, if you will, of E3. So, um, I had my own little video game note, and this was like I had texted you earlier, and I said, hey, I got something to chit chat about based on your kind of you dove hard into ESPN NFL 2K5, right?
Yes.
And we talked about this before. We did a sports video games episode many months ago, and one of the games I had mentioned was Baseball Simulator 1000. And it's funny enough was that, again, maybe they listened to our podcast. Nintendo actually released Super Baseball Simulator 1000 as part of the Super Nintendo Classic online application that you can play on the Switch. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to dive right back into it because I really love that game, and I'm just curious to see honestly how it plays on the Switch. So I decided I'm going to create myself a 165 game season. I'm not just going to play exhibition. I'm going all in. So I was like 165 game season. I'm going to do 6 teams, obviously, because that's what you have.
Right.
And I'm going to go my team. I'm going to go the all-stars with the power-ups, unlimited. And everyone else, all normal teams, no power-ups. So we talked about this before. Especially I love playing that game normal. And I love playing with like limited power-ups because I get into like really crafty, and I've talked about this with bunting and kind of building your team and editing them and making some really fast guys up top and doing some really interesting things. But I was like, you know what? I'm not editing anything. I'm just straight playing this as the best possible team against just 5 other regular teams. And I just wanted to kind of see what happens. So what I'm about to tell you, and I want you to keep in mind that this is after 15 games.
Okay.
And that most of these games, they don't run 9 innings because if you recall in Baseball Simulator, once you hit the 10-run mercy rule, it's over.
Right.
So sometimes we have a 2-inning game, sometimes we have a 6-inning game, but very rarely, I don't think I've had a 9-inning game. So we're talking short games. So the leadoff batter for the all-star team, again, with unlimited power-ups, is one of the worst players I've ever seen. He's absolutely horrible.
What?
Horrible. And I'm going to tell you this by horrible, he's hitting 294 with a double and 3 runs batted in after 15 games, which doesn't sound horrible.
No.
But I replaced him because he was so bad after the first handful of games. I replaced him with a bench player whose name was Ross, because I didn't change anyone's names either. I just left him in Baseball Simulator mode. He's hitting 717 with 15 doubles, leads the league in triples with 8, 5 home runs, and 12 RBI. Okay. So he's my new leadoff guy.
Okay. A cleanup hitter on any other team or a 3-hole hitter on
exactly.
Any other team.
He's my leadoff guy.
Okay.
So my 3-hole hitter has no home runs at all.
What?
But he's hitting 877.
Why is he not your leadoff and put your leadoff in the 3-hole?
But here's the best thing. I'm going to remind you, this is after 15 games.
Okay.
My cleanup hitter is hitting 737 with 30 home runs and 71 RBI.
Jesus Christ.
So if I were to extrapolate that over the season, he would have 330 home runs and 781 RBI. And I'm going to mind you that I play most of these games after I've had some beers. So
I want to know how big this guy's head is.
It's crazy. Yeah, exactly. It's like Barry Bonds times 50. But no, it's so funny. I thought you'd get a good laugh out of that because it's funny to see. I'm basically just trying to hit home runs. That's all I'm doing with everybody. So I have to give my love to that game. I enjoy it so much because really you can sit down and play it for like 10 minutes and win, and you've played a whole game and it's fun. It's over.
Dude, I can
But
remember I can remember being in the middle of a game and us doing having to go do something or going out. Like I would be meeting up with people or whatever. I would just leave it on, come back and finish the game. And yeah, it would be like, oh, I only needed to do one more at bat and it would have been over.
yeah, yeah. It's a fun one essentially, but no, I had to do that. So,
Yeah,
all right, let's that the appetizers are done. Let's jump in. We've got
yeah,
a
man.
nice full episode here of E3, and I'll kind of lead us off with I just figured we'll just go through our run sheet here,
Yeah, man.
and we'll just kind of go top to bottom because I think there's so many interesting things that were announced, and I think if we go so. The first little nugget I have, um, I went heart. Sorry.
That's not a nugget.
Yeah. The game Among Us, which you and I have played a bit together, and then we played it, separately, whatever. They announced an official update without mods, and supposedly this, I guess, was supposed to hit June 15th, with 15 player lobbies, which is really cool because before it was limited to 10 without mods.
Right.
So that's kind of a cool update. Again, very very limited there. I love watching the little teaser there because that's a game that I played a lot. You played some too. Several months ago. My kids are big into it. We have a lot of friends that are big into it. It's one of those easy to learn. It's a lot like Clue, obviously. But then watching that little teaser kind of got me wanting to get back into it because the little music and little animations, and it's just a fun game. So that was kind of cool to hear as an
Yeah,
official update.
I'm definitely into that. I haven't played it in a while. We'll have to hop on. I know Peyton was excited about it, was talking about it, and he had hopped on and played a couple rounds. So
Yeah, yeah. Tommy was too. Katie, I don't know. She probably was. I don't know, but yeah, definitely. No, I agree there. But let's kind of go into our next one. This one really surprised me because I saw your note here and I just shocked me. Diablo 2 Resurrected. Um,
yes,
Go ahead. I want to hear your note on it. This kind of
yeah.
shocked me.
So this is going to be a next gen update. It's coming out to Switch and all your next gen consoles. Releases on September 23rd. And this, I've never played any Diablo games aside from Diablo 3, which I played on PS3, I believe. I have it for Xbox One, had it for Switch, just never really played it because I got so far on PS3. And then when it came time to start over, I was like, ah, man, I want to start over. But Diablo 2, I've heard, is basically the definitive Diablo game. Um, and I'm super looking forward to this one. I really want to get into it.
Yeah, dude. And then the minute I was reading your note there, and that you never actually played Diablo 2, and I was like, what? Um, I spent more hours than I probably should have for years playing Diablo 2. Um, I love absolutely just because to me, I loved playing Diablo, the original. But it was limited at a point, and I just never really got into it as much as I did Diablo 2, especially because Diablo 2 had a really cool expansion as well. And in fact, I ended up it was one of those games that I bought like two or three times over, because I do have a copy of the soundtrack on CD. Um, but the depth was cool, and the thing I've always loved about Diablo 2, and again, I was kind of like you, I played Diablo 3 on the Switch, which I thought was awesome. I actually have the amiibo for the little loot goblin.
Oh, nice.
It was a GameStop exclusive, which that's about as nerdy as I'll get with that stuff. But yeah, I really do have that. So, um, but the thing that made Diablo 2 better to me than Diablo 3 was that it wasn't over the top. Like to me, I could sit there and play Diablo 3 and I love it because it's like a lot of crazy things are happening at once, but it's like too many crazy things are happening at once. Like at least Diablo 2, you could slow down, you can kind of take it in. And so to see the graphics updated and all that, and for a game that is over 20 years old and it still has the following and the love that it has, that's awesome. So super cool to see that announced. Oh, we kind of knew about it, but like to see the release date and then the trailer for it was cool too. So,
Yeah,
um, but we have a new Bethesda game. Go ahead, let's
we
talk
do.
on this one.
So this one, I mean, I'm good with it because I'm an Xbox guy and I have, I haven't gotten the Series X yet. I figured that'll happen down the line, but apparently I should be able to play this on my Xbox One X. But Starfield, which is a new Bethesda game, it's coming out in November of 2022, and I've seen it described as a Han Solo simulator. And the other description I saw was Skyrim in space. So I'm on. I'm on board. I'm sold.
Yeah, dude, and I saw obviously Bethesda, and of course, I later found out that it was going to be exclusive, which I understood because Microsoft purchased the studio, so that wasn't a surprise. But man, I've talked about this on our podcast for Sky. I'm such a huge Skyrim fan. Um, I'm hoping that that's more what you just said, Skyrim in space. Don't get me wrong, I also like the Fallout series, but not nearly as much as I do like Skyrim.
Right.
So I'm kind of hoping that that's more the direction, even though it's obviously a completely different universe and time and whatever. Yeah, that trailer was awesome. I'm excited. This might make me because I haven't purchased the PS5 yet. That's what I initially wanted, but this might make me, hey, jump on with the newest Xbox. So, this might be my selling point, and I'm not kidding one way or the other on that because all it takes sometimes is one game, and this might be it for me.
Well, here's the other option you have, which this is something else that came out of E3 with no concrete details or no concrete plans from Microsoft. But what they did say is that eventually you're going to be able to do Xbox Live Game Pass on just a TV. And if that's the case, this game is coming to Game Pass at launch.
Yeah, and that's interesting. It's funny. So that's kind of more akin to like the Google Stadia type mentality, right?
Right.
And that'd be interesting.
And they also said they're working on new hardware, which who knows, that new hardware could very well be some kind of streaming stick, like a Fire TV or something like that you just pop in the HDMI port, and then you connect a controller through Bluetooth, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I don't know. It's cool. This will be fun to see. Now we got a long time for this to come out. So we'll kind of see what happens. We got plenty of months, years, actually year and a half in between. So we'll kind of see what happens there with Starfield. We have a couple quick notes here. You and I don't have a whole lot written down for either one. We do have Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin releasing next year, and Final Fantasy 1 through 6 are being re-released for a new Pixel Remaster series. I don't have a whole lot of notes other than just that. Do you have anything to add on those?
No, I've never. I'm going to lose some of my nerd credit here. Aside from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance for the Game Boy Advance, and the Final Fantasy Adventure games, and the ones like the RPGs that were on the Game Boy, which apparently weren't even actually Final Fantasy games. They were, I want to say, they're part of the Mana, the Secret of Mana.
Secret of Mana.
Yeah, they were actually part of that franchise, according to the collection of Mana that I have sitting on my shelf for the Switch. So those are really the only Final Fantasy games I have any kind of real experience with. I've never really played 1 through 6. I've never played 7 or any of the ones that came later.
Yeah, I stopped at 7. I may have dabbled into something after 7. I religiously played mainly the U.S. release of 2 and 3, what we would call in the U.S. as 2 and 3, for me anyway, back in the early 90s, because that's what I remember them as. They were released as Final Fantasy 2 and 3 for the Super Nintendo. I played that was my meat and potatoes for playing it, namely 2. I played the original for Nintendo, but not as much. I played 7 a lot when it hit for the PlayStation, but then I stopped. I love those games. I I always will, and there are games that I can get back into, every once in a while. I'm excited to see, kind of some of these remasters again. I just wonder because sometimes, games have been re-released for different systems and remastered how many times. As much of a fan as I am of something, sometimes I wonder how much can you really redo before, just kind of like, here it is for the 10th time. And
Right.
I don't mean to speak ill of that. I just, it's like, yeah, it was really cool the first 2 or 3 times. So I'm curious to just kind of see what this iteration might be.
No, I get that. I totally get that.
But let's move on. This one was kind of cool because the trailer was pretty neat. Um, let's talk. I want to hear your thoughts on this first. Tiny Tina's Wonderland, which is like a Borderlands spinoff. What do you
Dude,
got on this?
oh, I'm so on board. So on board. This is another series that I've enjoyed from afar. I've never really played it. I think I popped it in for like the first one for Xbox 360, and I just, for whatever reason, I never played it again. It wasn't because I disliked it. I just never really got into it. But the trailer that I saw, or the little teaser that we got, I'm on board, man. Blowing up dragons with rockets. Yes. Yes. Sign me up. Take my money. Put this game in my hand right now.
The great thing about this little teaser they threw out, and I don't know if they're pulling our chain, but man, Andy Samberg, Wanda Sykes, Will Arnett are apparently involved, which is really cool. That game was made based off of, some of the dialogue and the characters, and loot based game, much like Diablo, obviously completely different scenario and setting. But you just had these really fun things. I'm always going to be a huge fan of Claptrap, who's like the little helper robot that roams around with you, just because it was just so funny and ridiculous. But just they're so fun, such fun games, and so this is super cool to see. I'm excited. So what's next on deck? We got a couple Marvel games mentioned
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So there's an expansion for the Avengers game, which came out. The Square Enix Marvel Avengers game came out, fell flat on its face. Um, it's, I, I was super excited for it when I found out about it, and then I saw some gameplay, and I was like, nope, this game's not for me. Um, but they've released a new expansion. It's Wakanda Forever, or War for Wakanda. Sorry, mixing up with the movie name.
Yeah.
So War for Wakanda. Um, an add-on to a game I'm not really interested. I'm gonna pass on this. Have you played the Avengers game at all?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of in the okay. So we're trading places here. I've never played that game, so I
Okay.
have no frame of reference.
All right. So, I'm obviously gonna pass. I'm not the target. You would think I'd be the target demographic for this, considering, you know, how much I love the Marvel universe, how much I love comic books and Captain America and Thor. But nah, man, I'm out on this one. And sadly, I'm out on the next game too, which it looks super cool, but the gameplay trailer had me down, and that's Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that kind of bummed me out. I'm a big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and then obviously, the inclusion into the MCU. Um, yeah, but honestly, those games in general, I don't know. Like I saw a bit of in-person Spider-Man, uh, the Spider-Man game for PS5, and was like, yeah, this was really cool. That was like the most Marvel like in depth on a next gen system I got. But I was like, I just don't know that I could sit there and play these for like hours at a time. And I'm not saying that these are similar games to that. I'm just saying that like I like watching them. I don't know that I could play them. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right. Yeah, the Spider-Man game to me looks absolutely stunning, looks amazing, and I definitely want to get it. Should I ever end up with a PS5? Um, I didn't really get I didn't get to dig in on Spider-Man for PS4. Um, but again, it was another game that if PS4 would have been my main console, I'd have had that game. I'd have played that that would have been that would have been my jam. But I just not being a PS4 guy for most of the generation, I just never really got around to playing it, and which is a shame. I kind of wish it was multi-platform.
Yep, no. So, it is what it is. And again, I'm kind of in the same boat you are. Some of those games just not my cup of tea. So I'm just not going to do it. Let's move on. I do have we do have a note here. And I thought this was kind of cool. Razer kind of announced their first laptop with an AMD processor, AMD Ryzen processor, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. I think it's cool because I'm curious to see how it goes. And the reason why I say that is because my main Windows laptop that I use now for work is actually a Razer Blade. But it's an Intel, obviously, because they haven't put AMDs in them yet. It's an awesome computer. It looks beautiful. In fact, if you're unaware, they actually made a Razer Blade phone a couple of years ago, which it looked really cool. It's a shame they stopped making them.
I remember that.
Yeah, really cool. It's obviously geared for gaming. They're just really, really nice machines. I'm curious to see how this goes. And this is strictly my IT person, interperson talking. I have never cared for anything with an AMD processor, and more particularly high-powered machine. And maybe I'm wrong, and I hope this thing proves me wrong, but I just don't think it's going to hack it with certain things comparative to an Intel processor. That's my personal opinion.
I remember when we back when we had, I think it was our second computer that we ever got, our second PC, I should say, because we had the first computer we ever had was an Apple II Plus, which not a whole heck of a lot was getting done on that. It was fun to have though. But the second PC we had an AMD processor. I remember thinking how cool it was. And I kind of stuck with them going forward for a little bit, but I had gotten an AMD processor in one of my laptops and it was just garbage. And ever since then, I hadn't gone back to AMD.
Yeah, and it's a shame because more recently AMD has been pretty good for lower powered machines, and I say that I mean like Chromebooks and things of that nature. They're great for that, but anything higher powered, I've just never been a fan of it. And early on too, because there was no such thing as a small laptop or whatever. It was all desktops or these gigantor laptops. And anytime I saw AMD, or as people would ask me for recommendations, I'm like, no, Intel sticker, and then you're good. So, and that was it. And so I'm curious to see how it goes, and I hope it goes well. But so that was an interesting announcement. Another really quick thing here. Have you ever played the Sea of Thieves games?
I haven't. I have a friend, named Amanda, who you can find her on Twitch as Gorticia Adams, and she actually streams Sea of Thieves. But I myself have never played it. It looks like it's something I would enjoy, but I haven't gotten into it yet.
Yeah, I've never played it, but I did see that, one of my all-time favorite movie characters, Jack Sparrow, is coming to Sea of Thieves here in a few days, and I thought that was pretty awesome for a game I've never played. I was like, ooh, that sounds really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that is really cool to have that cross promotion, even this many years out from Pirates of the Caribbean's heyday. It's still cool because you think of Jack Sparrow. That is a lot of people's quintessential pirate. That's who they think of. I mean, think of another pirate in pop culture that trumps him.
Yeah, no, obviously, no. Yeah. All right, so this next one, my goodness. We have to talk about this next one for a little bit because, wow.
Yeah, so...
Go ahead.
I thought it was a fever dream. I thought I dreamt this, and I'm glad you watched the trailer too, because it validates that I didn't just dream this thing up. This game's called Atomic Heart, and there's no release date yet. But the trailer was absolutely bat-esque crazy. I'm not even going to try and describe it because nothing I say is going to match the sheer insanity of this trailer. Like, I don't even want to ruin it. I feel like talking about it would not do it any justice whatsoever.
You're completely right, and I will do my little part. Just I can't explain it either because it was crazy, and it's one of those games that like I I have to play. Like I just have to. But
Right.
I got watching that. I get a little bit of BioShock. I got a lot of Crackdown, which I know you're a fan of.
Yes, I love Crackdown.
But I also got some Days End. Would you ever play that game
No, I've
or
never
seen
played it.
that game? Okay, so Days End. I think it was maybe it was PS4 exclusive. I don't remember though. But it was like a kind of an end of days like type game, obviously with the name Days End. Um,
No,
but
no, that's like rainbows and puppies.
but that Atomic Heart, like that video that we got, wow, I saw all those three, and then it was like here's a bunch of like other stuff on top of it, and I can't wait to play it because it just looks so fun and ridiculous. And but I'm not talking like ridiculous like Goat Simulator.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
talking just like ridiculous like Crackdown,
Right.
but like next level.
Yeah.
It looks so fun.
Yeah. It's not some kind of like wacky physics based game. It's no man. This thing's it's legit. Like it's just legit absolute craziness. You really just have to see it. Like that's all I can say.
Yep. No, agree. We have a note here. Let's pop this one down into our. We'll polish this with Nintendo. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So our last non-Nintendo reference we have. You have something on Halo Infinite. What do you got on that?
So Halo Infinite is following the trend started by Call of Duty and other first person shooters, and they are actually taking their multiplayer mode and making it free to play. Not only is it going to be free to play, you're going to be able to get it day one, the day that the game launches, and play just like everybody else, um, for the multiplayer aspect of it. Now, for me, that's not a big deal because I'm not a multiplayer guy when it comes to Halo. I want to play for the campaign because I'm weird like that. Um, but and also because I suck at the multiplayer aspect of it. But that's huge. That's huge for anybody who was looking forward to the game, but there's a cost issue as far as an entry point or something like that. You you don't have to worry about it. And the cool thing about Halo Infinite is you don't have to worry about not being able to get your hands on an Xbox Series X or an Xbox Series S. It's coming out for the Xbox One as well. And then it's obviously going to be an enhanced version for your Series X, your Xbox One X, and your Series S. So
Yeah.
I love that Microsoft is doing that, and they've kind of pledged to keep at least their first party games for the foreseeable future are going to be cross generational. And I appreciate that, and I give them a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, no, super cool because they could have easily decided, you know what, nope, this is going to be straight for next gen systems, or I guess we can almost call them current gen systems.
Yeah.
They could have certainly said that, and they didn't, and that's awesome. So I will hat tip to that. But yeah, let's finish this off with some Nintendo talk. And one of the note we skipped over, and I'll be honest with you, I don't. Was this part of Nintendo's presentation?
No, so Ubisoft came out on Sunday and they had their whole presentation. It was called Ubisoft Forward.
That's right. Okay, I didn't think it was. So yeah, go ahead on this one.
Yeah, I mean, like there was a mention in the Nintendo Direct on this game, but this was announced prior to Nintendo's Nintendo Direct. So this is Mario plus Rabbids 2, and it's got some kind of subtitle, but I don't remember it. Basically, a sequel to Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which came out a few years ago, and it was kind of like an XCOM based Mario and Rabbids game, which was pretty interesting. It was pretty cool. I had some fun with it when it came out. Didn't complete it, kind of stopped playing it, lost interest, but it was a fun game for what it was. I remember I got it on sale for like $20, so you couldn't really beat that. But with this one, they're changing it up a little bit. They're changing up the mechanics. And from the trailer that I saw, apparently when it's your player's turn, they have what looks like, and maybe I'm wrong, they said you have free room on the battlefield. And but I saw a circle which seemed to indicate the area that you had to stay in. So it looks like instead of having like a square by square, like grid based system, you're going to be able to run freely throughout the battlefield to make your attacks and stuff.
Oh, okay. Just as long as you're in your boundary.
Right. So,
Got it.
I mean, it looks pretty interesting for those of you who never played, Mario plus Rabbids or who aren't aware of it. Somehow or another, the Mario characters get mixed up with the Rabbids. They end up in the same kingdom. Things get mixed together. This ends up creating versions of the Rabbids that are basically crossed with Mario characters. So you've got like Mario, Rabbid Peach, Rabbid Luigi, and they all have their own little personality quirks and stuff. And it's an interesting game. It's fun. It's not super violent. Even though it uses guns, it's not violent. It's more like cartoon funny violent, which
Oh yeah.
is some of the best, and it's cool for kids. It's a good way to get them introduced to like the strategic RPG type games. And it was funny. I mean, there's a lot of juvenile humor. There's like butts everywhere, farts and burps and stuff everywhere, which I'm not gonna lie, I laughed at.
Yeah, it's it's a good game. I've got Kingdom Battle. I played it not a lot, but I played it enough to enjoy it. My kids play it. It's one of those games that, every once in a while someone just throws it in and plays it for 30 minutes to an hour. At my house anyway.
Yeah.
I was a little skeptical at first, because I was like, that sounds a little weird, but no, it's cool. You're right. You're spot on. It's a good strategy game for just about any age. The humor can be, a little childish at times, but who doesn't enjoy good childish humor? So
Exactly.
it's a good fun, clean game, honestly, for what it is. So yeah, I'm excited to see what this next iteration is. But let's dive into Nintendo Direct and their presentation. You had a really cool kind of thought here, because I think this kind of summarizes everything, and then we can kind of dive into some more like specifics about games. So, why don't you talk about like overall what your thought was of the Nintendo Direct presentation?
So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna preface it before I say it though. I saw a good explanation afterwards as to why they did things the way they did. So I'm gonna give my initial thoughts, and then I'm gonna give my updated thoughts, and then we'll dig in further. So my initial takeaway from it was I've never been so impressed and disappointed at the same time. And to be clear, it's not that Nintendo did anything wrong. It's just that I've got myself so convinced that we were going to see the successor to the Switch or a new iteration of it, like the Switch Pro, and some kind of Zelda bundle for their anniversary, and then not having them kind of put a damper on what was an outstanding presentation in my eyes. Also, no Waluigi in Smash Brothers yet.
Oh yeah.
But that said, I did see an article, and it was like, you know what, Nintendo does this every year. They always focus. E3 is about the games. Every time they've announced a hardware revision or a new system at E3, it's flopped. And if you look back, that's true as far back as the Wii U, and which you can't blame the Wii U's failure entirely on being launched at E3.
No, that was more a little ahead of its time type thing.
Right. And then the 3DS, which actually went from being a joke to being one of the best-selling handhelds of all time. And if you remember correctly, when they announced the 3DS, when it was launched, it was such a critical failure and such a sales failure that they sliced the price, I think, almost in half at one point after it was released. It was either in half or like they took a quarter off the price just to start moving units. And that was something that they were eventually obviously able to recover from. But
Right.
so they didn't want. So what they're doing is more than likely what they'll do is in a month or two they'll announce whatever iteration of the Switch because it's obviously there. We've seen all the reports. We know that they've discontinued the system on chip. We know that they've ordered the 7-inch screens from, I believe, Sony or Samsung. There's concrete things out there that point to them releasing some sort of successor. And honestly, if you look at some of the um, images from some of these games that they were showing, they looked a little bit too uh, they looked a little bit too intense to be coming out on the Switch as we know it. At least that was what I saw. When I looked at some of this stuff, I was like, huh, they're gonna do that on the Switch? Okay, that seems a little off. Let's see where they're going with this. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's my take.
no, yeah, no, and I think it's a great overall take from everything I've read, and a lot of it does make sense. And I've read maybe not the same article as you did, but a lot of the focus does tend to be on games, and for rightful reasons, which you've mentioned. So outside of what we've talked about before with a couple of the notes there with we dabbled into the Mario and Rabbids thing already, which was mentioned at the direct presentation. Let's talk about some big hitters here.
Yeah, so I put some notes down, and this is kind of it's not a comprehensive list. Obviously, this is the stuff that stuck out to me. So if any of the stuff that you saw on there you want to talk about, feel free to jump in with it. But
yeah, I've got a couple of notes on a couple of these. So yeah, looking forward to chiming in.
Okay, so the way that they let it off was Kazuya from Tekken being introduced into Smash Brothers, and the video was great. It did its job. It showed different things. But what stuck out to me, what made me laugh so freaking hard, was when he threw Kirby over the cliff.
Yeah, I watched this. Great. That's super great. Yeah.
He's carrying Kirby like a little basketball, and Kirby's kicking his little feet. And he throws him over the edge. Then he floats back up. And it was just funny. So, but that was the very first video. No Waluigi. Sadly, I'll be crying purple tears until he gets released. But let's move on to an actual game that I was hoping for some kind of news on this series. I was not expecting this, and I was not expecting how it's going to play out. So the first game I've got marked down here is Metroid Dread. And
yeah, this looks cool.
Metroid Dread is not only a new 2D Metroid, it's got some new play mechanics. So it's got these robots that at least from the trailer, Samus can't hurt with her weapons. And it seems like these things are hidden all over, and they'll just drop down. You'll hear this warning, and you got to go hide, or you got to run and get away from these things, or else they're going to destroy you. And it looks really, really cool. And it releases on October 8th, which, for those of you who don't know, is my birthday. So thank you, Nintendo. I appreciate this Christmas present. Wow. Appreciate this birthday present. So I'll expect, the limited edition one that's already sold out and the amiibos that are already sold out, I guess, in my mailbox on my birthday. Cool. Thanks.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of the original. So to see another 2D Metroid, just wow. Super cool. That was one of the first games I ever had for the Nintendo. I'd say first games when for console anyway, because that was the first console I had. So I'm super excited to see this. This seems promising to me. I'm a big Metroid fan. I'll be honest, I didn't get into some of the later releases. One reason or the other, just not into them. So this is cool for me to see. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, my first real experience, I played Metroid at people's houses, but my first real in-depth experience with Metroid was Metroid 2 for the Game Boy. And I played the hell out of that game, man. It was so fun. I never really played Super Metroid because I didn't have it for Super Nintendo. Um, I remember renting Metroid Prime for GameCube. Um, and it was cool, but I never ended up buying it. And then once it got to Wii and it went to motion controls, they completely lost me because I didn't want to play a first person shooter with motion.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. That's about where it lost me too. Um, I, I was always, to me, Metroid was just a great scroller. Uh, but the great thing about Metroid was that you go backwards,
Right,
which was unheard of in 1986.
right.
So that I think that was the part to me that was always fascinating. But then, of course, I say that, and then you start doing different things and get it out of that 2D back and forth scrolling world. Oh, I'm not going to like it anymore. That's kind of what I thought. So, shame on me, I guess. But maybe one day I'll pick up some of those other games.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
and if they weren't ridiculously expensive, and honestly, this is something that while we're on the topic of the 2D Metroid games, I really wish they released some kind of collection with the Game Boy Advance Metroid games because I hear they were outstanding. I played some of Metroid Fusion, but I would love to get a collection of the Game Boy Advance games because they're so prohibitively expensive at this point. Like Zero Mission is ridiculous, and same with Fusion. They're incredibly difficult to find, and when you do, they're super expensive.
yeah, yeah. So, all right. Well, let's jump off Metroid. Let's talk Super Monkey Ball.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about those
right.
balls with the monkeys in them.
All right.
So
Go ahead. Let's because you're the guy that really introduced me. I knew about Super Monkey Ball, but you really were the one that got me into this franchise. So I
yes,
want to hear this.
so I probably have told this story before, but I remember being at the Deptford Mall in the upstairs, the one near the food court. I think it was EB Games up near the food court, or maybe I think it was EB Games at the time. But they had their Game Boy or GameCube games up there, and I was there and I was choosing between Cubivore and Super Monkey Ball. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, all right, I gotta buy the game that has a monkey in a hamster ball. I have to. And I bought it, and you were actually on your way back from Kentucky. Uh, and we played Super Monkey Ball on the GameCube. And I was hooked. Now, hindsight being 2020, I'd have bought both of them and kept them because, as we talked about before, Cubivore is like $1,000 now if you have it in the box with the manual and everything. And I'm a dumbass, but so anyway, history lesson aside, this is going to be the first three Super Monkey Ball games. So Super Monkey Ball, Super Monkey Ball 2, and Super Monkey Ball Deluxe released in one package. Not only is it cool because all three games are awesome, but there's a ton of mini games, and you're going to get them all remastered. So it's not going to be the janky GameCube graphics or whatever whatever system graphics. You're getting new Switch graphics. And again, this one releases right near my birthday. It releases October 5th.
There you go.
So
there you go.
Sega, go ahead and send it on. But one last thing I learned about this, fairly recently, apparently they found Sonic and Tails. People have already looked through some kind of code from this game somehow. I don't know how, or maybe it was from a website or something, but they found a Sonic image and a Tails image in the Monkey Balls.
That's
So
awesome. Which makes a lot of sense if you think of what Sonic and Tails do in their games, but
right. And it's Sega, there's been crossover in the Sega racing games, so let's just bring them into Super Monkey Ball because they're not doing anything anyway.
Yeah, no, that was a cool one, but not to me. We're kind of we're main eventing this in the middle of the Nintendo Direct announcements, but this was the most amazing one to me. Mario Party Superstars.
Yes.
And again, not too much after your birthday again. What is this? Come on.
So releasing October 29th. Again, Nintendo, man, just send me a care package. It's all good. If it comes late, it comes late. I'm good with it. But this is going to feature 5 boards from the N64 games, and it's going to feature over 100 mini games. The cool things about this are, number one, no motion controls. So if you got a kid with a Switch Lite, or you yourself have a Switch Lite, you're no longer locked out of the Mario Party. You're on the guest list. You are in. The other thing that's super cool is it can be played online. And when I say it can be played online, it's not with the weird restrictions that Super Mario Party currently has. This can be you and three random people from across the internet playing online. It can be you and three friends. It can be you and two friends. You can do it in any different way you want to do it online with actual people, which is a huge step, not just for the Mario Party series, but for Nintendo in general, because they haven't been the best at the online, rando matchmaking.
Yeah, no, and that, yeah, you're exactly right. The uh, part of that reminds me of the Mario Kart online experience, except for the fact that you don't have that ability to easily sit there and do exactly what you just explained. And yeah, super exciting. I'm really looking forward to this. All I can say is wow. I loved all those games on the 64. I'm super excited to see what they look like with the graphics updates. And yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, and it looks like, I mean, from what they've shown, it looks great. They've pretty much taken the Super Mario Party graphics and kind of cut and paste, but it looks, oh man, it looks fantastic. Two of the levels they've released so far are Peach's wedding cake or Peach's birthday cake. I don't know which one it was. It was Peach and a cake, and the spaceport one. So I remember playing the spaceport one, and it drove me crazy, but it was awesome, and I loved it, and I'm super excited for this game.
All right, so another one I knew that you were really excited about, and this is one of those games that a lot of people might be aware of. They may not have played it, but then I think this might find a lot of new life with the new generation of players here with the Switch. WarioWare.
Yes, so
What
WarioWare,
do you have on this?
dude. So I still remember the first time I ever played a WarioWare game. It was the original one for Game Boy Advance. I was sitting in the DMV all day, getting my license or something fixed, and I literally beat the game sitting in the DMV. And then they released the GameCube version, and the GameCube version I used to torture you guys with all the time, and I loved it. I don't know if any of you loved it as much as I did, but I loved the game. And so they're coming out with a new one. This is the latest one since one that came out on the Wii U. It was called Game and Wario. Um, Most like everything else that was on the Wii U, it didn't really do that well. Um, and it's actually, I feel like it's pretty rare now. I'm pretty sure it's one of the more expensive Wii U games. Um, but this is so cool. It's an update of the series. It's got two-player co-op, which typically these games have been competitive. They haven't been co-op, so it'll be fun to see how that works out. I'm looking forward to that. The game itself looks super fun, and it releases September 10th.
Yeah, I mean, everything is just wrapping right around your birthday, so
Yeah,
I
which
mean,
hey, I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
this next one, you have a note on. I don't want to even entertain to say this because I'm afraid I'll butcher the name. Can you pronounce this?
I can not very well, but I can. It's Shin Megami. I screwed it up already. It's Shin Megami Tensei 5. So it's a series that really it's more famous probably for what came after than what it actually is, as far as at least in the States. Now, it does have a dedicated fan base in the States. Um, most of the games in the series are worth, if you can find them, are worth some money, especially the Game Boy, or I mean the DS and the 3DS games. But it's cool. It's an RPG. It's a JRPG, and it's similar. I don't want to say it's similar to Pokemon because that's too much of a simplification. It's a game where you play and you do turn-based battles against demons and fairies and angels. And what you have to do is you have to try and convince them. You can convince them to join you. And the way you convince them to join you is in battle. You talk to them, and some of them, it'll be like, okay, I want this, and then you give it to them, and they'll say, "Yeah, okay, cool. That I'm satisfied. I'll take it." And it may be an item, it may be money, or it could be even health. Um, and then some of them, they'll take that whatever you request or they request of you, and then they'll say, you know what? Never mind. I changed my mind, and then they'll just screw you over. And some of them, they'll say, "All right, you want me to join you?" And the way you get them to join you is by saying, "No, that's fine. We're done here." And then they'll join you anyway out of spite.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool. And then what you do is you create new monsters by fusing the angels or demons or fairies or whatever. You fuse them together, and then you create new ones. So it's a pretty cool game. It's a pretty cool experience. But what spawned out of that is actually the Persona series.
Right, which obviously is a whole, that we could do a whole other show on just that series. So
Oh yeah, but this will be releasing November 12th.
So so there you go, another month after your birthday. So
Yeah.
You do have a note here on Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. I'll be honest, I've never touched these games before, so I don't have any frame of reference on them. Do you want to briefly speak on this?
Yeah, so this is another one of those tactical games. It's a strategy RPG. Basically, you're trying to take over. You're part of the Orange Star Army, and you're fighting against your enemies. And you're trying to take over territory. You use this with little military units, just trying to take over cities and then eventually the entire territory. And it's very much more complicated than that. It's an oversimplification, but it's a very cool series. This one will be the first one and the second one bundled together, and it's out on December 3rd. Definitely something that I'm going to look at picking up, or at least when there's a demo, trying out the demo, because like you, I've never really dug too far into them. I'm aware of them. I'm aware of what they are, but it's not something I've really got a wealth of experience with.
Yeah, no, I don't at all. I've heard them. I've heard they're great, but again, one of those things that just never dabbled in. So this next one, Game & Watch Zelda, and I'll speak to this a bit because I actually have the Game & Watch Mario edition that was released, which was very cool. My only, I guess, issue with it was that it seemed to be more of a novelty. It's fun to play. It's easy to play on. It's cool because it's, just real light and small, and basically put it in your front pocket if you have one in your shirt type deal, and fun to play. I have a lot higher hopes for the Zelda one, and you mentioned because it actually has Zelda 2 and Link's Awakening all on it.
Yes.
And some other features on there. So I'm hoping this one's a bit better. The Mario one was cool. Worth $50. That's up for debate.
Yeah, and that was my major complaint. I ended up getting one for Peyton because he really wanted one. Well, I should say the Easter Bunny got it for Peyton. And so hopefully he doesn't listen to this and ruin that. But man, I really need to watch my mouth when I'm saying this stuff. But
post editing.
What's that? We don't do any of that. But yeah, I mean, this with 3 games and then the modified version of Vermin with Link's face on it, in addition to the fact that you can actually play the clocks, makes this one, I feel, like a safer bet. And depending upon when you're listening to this, I know the pre-orders did go live on Amazon. I was able to pre-order one. Highly recommend doing it. I know that there's still the Mario ones kicking around out there, but I don't know if Nintendo will, change their game plan based on how the original ones sold or didn't sell. And I don't know if they will produce as many, you know what I mean? So it might be worth doing a little pre-order ski, getting that done and taking care of it.
No, agreed. And then speaking of Zelda, this was a big one for me.
Let's hold off because there's 2 more that I want to talk about real quick.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. That's good. I think that's a nice one to finish off on. What do you think?
So Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin. So this one is another one that it's kind of like Pokemon in a way, and I hate to use that, but it's something that that comparison, but that's something that everyone understands. Uh,
Right.
so have you ever really played the Monster Hunter games?
No, I have not.
Okay. I tried the one that came out for Xbox One and PS4 a couple years ago. I think it came out like 17 or 18. Um, and I couldn't really get into it. It looked really cool and I really wanted to love it. I just never really could get into it. Part of it is it's one of those action RPGs where you're not actually hurting the person. Like there's a cooldown and you're attacking, but it's not really attacking, if you know what I mean. And so I couldn't really get into it. This one is more turn-based. And so what you're doing is you're capturing these monsters, you're finding eggs, you're hatching them, you're fighting other monsters, you're using them to help fight other monsters. It just looks cooler. I'm more into it. I know Peyton's more into it. Um, you know, we're capturing rather than hacking them to bits. We can save that for Tiny Tina's Wonderland. You know? So I'm looking forward to getting that. And the other one that's coming out that I'm pretty sure it's out now. If not now, it comes out very, very soon. Is a game that's already out on PC, and I don't know what other systems it's on, but Worms Rumble.
Yeah, I I said, I wrote my notes here. I was asleep at the wheel for this one. This sounds awesome. I'm a huge Worms fan.
Yeah,
So yeah, no. And you know what's funny? Apparently, this was announced like back in March.
yeah, yeah. Well, I remember, and I remember like, okay, what is this? What is it? And then I saw it was a battle royal game. I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work. But then I saw the video, and it looks pretty good. Like,
Yeah, no, I'm all in on those battle royal, especially anything on the Switch. You know me,
yeah.
Tetris 99, Pac Man, Super Mario 35. Man, I was all over those games. I'm a huge Worms fan. I'm all over this one too. So
So, and then
yeah,
in addition, there was some stuff on Mario Golf Rush, which I'm really into. I'm really looking forward to that. That comes out the 25th. Um, and this was one of my other letdowns was I thought we were going to get another Mario Baseball, but because people kept on saying, "Oh, there's a Mario Baseball in the works, Mario Baseball in the works," but I'm really thinking they probably were just whatever they were seeing was related to Mario Golf Rush. It looks super cool. It's got some interesting modes. You're playing in a city on the one. It'd be cool to bounce the ball off buildings. But that is not the main event.
no. Uh, we're gonna close this up with Breath of the Wild 2.
And this
Wow.
this is one of the ones that I was looking at some of the graphics they were doing, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know if that's Switch. I don't know if that's the vanilla Switch here that we're looking at. I think that this might be an enhanced version of something that we're seeing for the next iteration.
I It was so cool to see because the original Breath of the Wild is such a pretty game. The visuals are just off the charts. Even un, comparing the Switch to the PS4 or whatever, Xbox doesn't matter. Just the game itself is just such a nice, visually appealing game. It's so fun. I've always thought that Breath of the Wild to me was Nintendo's Skyrim, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
that was there because it was a fun, like the same thing. It was addictive. You could do so many different things with it, and it just, you had this thing. So watching this teaser that we had, oh my goodness, man, that doesn't disappoint. I'm excited for this one. I mean, we knew this was on the horizon.
Yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, this wasn't a shock necessarily, but to actually see a bit more, here we go.
Right. And what was cool is it kind of links, no pun intended, the release of Skyward Sword HD to the the Breath of the Wild universe.
Right.
One of the big things you see, and you mentioned this in your notes, is the wide open world above Hyrule.
Yep.
There's a lot of, it looks like, flight in this game. Even Hyrule Castle is lifted up out of the ground. And it looks insane, man. It looks absolutely beautiful. It looks insane. I can't wait to play it. We got a glimpse of a new ability that Link's going to have where he can go to the bottom of as long as he touches, I guess, the bottom of a piece of ground, he can travel like a drop of water up through the ground and then appear on top of it. It was insane.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It looks so fun in the sense of, because the first one was such a fun game, but you add just such another great layer to it, and you might be onto something. This could be, hey, this looks like it might be for a Switch Pro, but knowing Nintendo, I think they would certainly have some variant or version of this that would be more than playable for the Switch we have now.
Oh yeah, if they can make Breath of the Wild run on the Wii U, there's no doubt in my mind. And if we can get the original Breath of the Wild as good as it looked for the Switch as one of the launch games, yeah, man, there's, it even could just be that. It just could be that they've had so long to work with this hardware that they've really figured out how to squeeze every last drop of processing power and graphical power out of the hardware. And maybe that's why it looks as good as it does.
Yep.
I could be
very possible. No, it's very possible. I don't think you're wrong though. I think, we do get a Switch Pro or whatever announcement sometime in the very near future, officially. And, this might be like the first, as akin to, when I say this, I mean, Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch that we have now, Breath of the Wild 2 would be akin to a Switch Pro release. That's kind of how I feel about this.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So, man, I think we really hit a home run here on E3. Was there any last other notes that you wanted to talk about here?
That is all I've got, my friend. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I think if you I know that EA and Sony will be doing their presentations in I think a week or so. So we'll have to maybe reconvene with any major notes that come out of there. But aside from that, I think we're good, man. I think we've wrapped a good episode. I think we are. I think if we stick around any longer, see, I'm already screwing up. We're gonna just screw ourselves up.
Yeah, I think you're right there. So let's put a bow on it, and I think we've done E3 2021 pretty good service. So I think that's all we got. You got any last notes to say goodbye to our fateful universe here?
Go check us out on Facebook. We've got a page now. You can search us there. We're going to be at the Noise Brigade Pod. You can find us on Twitter at the Noise Brigade Pod. And of course, you can download or stream the podcasts from all of your favorite streaming services and podcast services, except for, I think, Amazon. I don't think Amazon has us.
No.
Oh, well. All right. Till next time, guys, be good. Thanks for listening. We'll see you down the road.
Yeah, later on, everyone.